Yo, it's MOPOWERZ, and we are back again. This time on a super duper fly live. That's right, we're doing this live, you all, on Miseducation of the Negro, Part 4. What have you all been doing? Me, I've been doing fantastic. So, needless to say, we went through 3 chapters so far, and there are 17 chapters in this book by Carter G. Woodson. There has been some very vital information that I have been leaving you all. I think that'll help a little bit better. No, it is what it is right now. But we're going to get off into this book. Let me cut this down a little bit so you can hear me a little bit better. But I will tell you this. If you had not gotten anything out of this book, if you never heard of the book, listen to this live and then go get the book. I mean, they like $6, $7 on Amazon. I just happen to have a hardback cover because I do a lot of moving, a lot of traveling. And sometimes those paperback covers, So needless to say, as always, I would like to use the one with the image of the lady with the band lock around her head, the Miseducation of the Negro, but it's too large. So you get the honorary Carter G. Woodson himself. What a better way to have it anyway, right? Chapter 4. Chapter 4, Education Under Outside Control. In the New Age program of education of the Negro, what will become of the white teachers of the race? Someone recently inquired. This is a simple question requiring only a brief answer. The remaining few Christian workers who went south not so long after the Civil War and established schools and churches to lay the foundations on which we should now be building more wisely than we do, we would honor as a mantra throng, anathema be upon them who would utter a word of derogatory to the record of these heroes and heroines. We could pay high tribute also to the unselfish Southerners like Haygood, Curry, Ruffner, Northern, and Vance, and to the white men of our time who believe that the only way to elevate people is to help them to help themselves. The unfortunate successors of the Northern missionary teachers of Negroes, however, have thoroughly demonstrated that they have no useful function in the life of the Negro. They have not the spirit of their predecessors and do not measure up to the requirements of educators desired in the accredited colleges. If Negro institutions are to be as efficient as those for whites in the South, the same high standard for the educators to direct them should be maintained. Negro schools cannot go forward with such a load of insufficiency, and especially when the white presidents of these institutions are often less scholarly than Negroes who have to serve under them. I'm just saying. By law and custom, the white presidents and teachers of Negro schools are prevented from participating freely in the life of the Negro. They occupy, therefore, a most uncomfortable dual position. When the author once taught in a school with a mixed faculty, the white women connected with the institutions would bow to him in patronizing fashion when on the campus, but elsewhere they did not see him. A white president of one Negro school never entertains a Negro in his home, preferring to ship such guests to the students' dining room. Another white president of a Negro college maintains on campus as a guest cottage which Negroes can enter only as servants. Still, another such functionary does not allow students to enter his home through the front door. Negroes trained under such conditions without protest become downright cowards, and their life will continue as slaves in spite of their nominal emancipation. What different method of approach or what sort of appeal would one make to the Negro child that cannot be made just as well by a white teacher? Someone asked not long ago, to be frank, we must concede that there is no particular body of facts that Negro teachers can impart to children of their own race that they may not be just as easily presented by persons of another race if they have the same attitudes as Negro teachers. Hey, what are they saying about me? You know they lying. I'm just saying. They make themselves look good while make you look bad. Remember, images controls the minds of people. That's what Confucius said. Images controls the minds of people. So if you put that negative image consistently in your head, you will become that which you put in your head, because you are what you think. You are what you think. You dig that? The only thing to do in this case, then, is to deal with the situation as it is. Yet we should not take the position that a qualified white person should not teach in a Negro school. For certain work which temporarily some whites may be able to do better than the Negroes, there can be no objection to such service. But if the Negro is to be forced to live in the ghetto, he can more easily develop out of it under his own leadership than that which is superimposed. The Negro will never be able to show all of his originality as long as his efforts are directed from without by those who socially proscribe him. Such friends will unconsciously keep him in the ghetto. That's right. Did you all get that? Your originality as your top flightness of a being doesn't come out in the ghetto, because you have too many crabs in the bucket. And then you have some people on top who mislead you, misguide you, so that you can't get to the top because you become a threat to them. Yeah. Hell, some people would just do it because they're not you and they're jealous of you. Once you get out of the ghetto, you don't want to go back to the ghetto. Why? Because of the foolishness that takes place in the ghetto. Rude people, drugs, crime. Crime is everywhere, but crime is more apt to happen in the ghetto. Think of the mindset of the people that's in the ghetto. You can't get most of them to even read a book. I'm just saying. Caught up in the matrix. And that's how they live. And that's how they live. Surround yourself with those that are like-minded so that you can elevate yourself. Because if you don't, you won't get there. And once you leave, don't go back. Maybe to visit, but don't go back to stay. It's a horrible transition because you've been waiting to get out of there. And me, from my own personal experience, don't go back. Don't go back. In fact, Cool G Rap told Nas to don't look back. Don't look back. Didn't Abraham tell that to Lot with his wife Sarah? Don't look back. And she did. And you know what happened to her? I'm just saying. And you are the same way. Miseducation of the Negro. Herein, however, the emphasis is not upon the necessity for separate systems, but upon the need for common sense schools and teachers who understand and continue in sympathy with those whom they instruct. Those who take the position, on the contrary, have the idea that education is merely a process of imparting information. One who can give out of these things or devise an easy plan for doing them so long, then as an educator, in a sense, this is true, but it accounts for most of the troubles of the Negro. Real education means to inspire people to live more abundantly, to learn to begin with life as they find it and make it better. But the instructions so far given Negroes in colleges and universities has worked to the contrary and hasn't built. They have worked to the contrary versus having an inspirational life, an aspiring life, a building life. You must remember, who was that? Was it Rockefeller? Who said that we need workers, not thinkers. Just as the same as religion. You need workers or believers versus thinkers. Thinkers become a problem to those who think. If they are on contrary paths, or it's a shame when you feel that someone is competing for you. Life is not about competing. And that is another miseducation of being a Negro. You don't have to compete against anybody except yourself, because you yourself is your own worst enemy. There's no competition with nobody. I don't have competition with nobody on YouTube, in life, no nothing. I don't, because I'm too competitive with my own self. And when you focus on a competitor, you take the focus off of you. I'm just saying. Real education means to inspire people to live more abundantly. Do you live more abundantly working yourself to death? I'm just saying. You think about it. I knew this man that worked for Paramount Theaters, and he did carpeting. He was a chief carpenter for Paramount Theaters and did it for 52 years. Damn. I'm just saying. How long do you have to work? Would you work if you didn't have to? And what are you working for and towards? And from the looks of it, we're not working towards anything except death. I'm just saying. In most cases, such graduates have merely increased the number of male contents who offer no program for changing the undesirable conditions about which they complain. I just spoke about this just right now, a couple of seconds ago, before I even read the sentence. And that's where we're at. Ask millionaires, will a job change your position or your undesirable condition? Ask a millionaire that. Ask a millionaire, do many of them go to college or graduate school? Ask a millionaire that. Unfortunately, Negroes who think as the author does and dare express themselves are branded as opponents of interracial cooperation. Now, before we go further, I want to say something. If you are a worker and you making over 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand a year, we're not talking about you, because you're living. We're not talking about that. We're talking about people who make $10 an hour, $12 an hour, 15. They still starving. And that's how many people are living today. Sadly, but true, but yet we're the richest country on earth. I'm just saying. Unfortunately, Negroes who think as the author does and dare express themselves are branded as opponents of interracial cooperation. As a matter of fact, however, such Negroes are the real workers in carrying out a program of interracial effort. Cooperation implies equality of the participants in the particular task at hand. On the contrary, however, the usual way is for the whites to work out their plans behind closed doors have them approved by a few Negroes serving nominally on a board, and then employ a white or mixed staff to carry out their program. Does that sound what we're still going through today? And remember, this book was written in 1933. Do you still see that today? I know you do. I know you do. That's not even up for debate. It is merely the ancient idea of calling upon the inferior to carry out the orders of the superior, to express it in post-classic language, as did Jesse O. Thomas. The Negroes do the cooning and the whites the operating. Wow. Wow. Now, is that true or what? Just think about it. Look what they do with your entertainers. How do entertainers speak for Black people or Negroes? They don't. If you let them speak for you, you're stupid. I'm just saying. Because they do nothing for you. They do nothing for you. Hell, the gangsters in the street will feed you before a celebrity will. Look what Buffy, what's his name? Bumpy Johnson used to do. He didn't have to do that, but he did. Look at what Frank Lucas did. Did any of those entertainers do that? No. There's one entertainer and professional athlete that's still around that I respect, and his name is Jim Brown and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I respect them. That's what I know of them. But most of them don't do a damn thing for you. They won't even give you a free ticket to a game or a concert or a free CD. Nothing. But that's who you worship and represent and want to be like. So when you be like them, you still, and you get there, you still give your people nothing. I'm just saying. This unsound attitude of the friends of the Negro is due to the persistence of the medieval ideal of controlling underprivileged classes. Behind closed doors, those friends or these friends say you need to be careful in advancing Negroes to commanding positions unless it can be determined beforehand that they will do what they are told to do. Ain't that right, Kamala Harris? Ain't that right, Condoleezza Rice? And so forth. Ain't that right, Jesse Jackson? You would not get in a commanding position like that in politics, in a corporation, unless you do exactly what they want you to do, even if it's against your own nature. Sad, but true. And what do little people do who make $10, $12, $15 an hour? They do what they are told to do unless they want to get what? Fired. See, that's the difference between having a job and being self-employed. You don't have to worry about being fired. But as I stated, I wish I was making 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand a year. Yeah, I go to work like a motherfucker. But somebody want to work for $10 an hour, $15 an hour, I'm not doing that. I'd rather continue on to do what I do, what I've been doing for what, since 2003? Yeah. I'm just saying. Always have something to fall back on. And many of us don't even prepare for that. Many of us don't even know how to be self-sufficient with ourselves without punching a clock. But like I said, if I made a certain amount of income, yeah, I go to work. But I'm not going to work for $10 an hour. I ain't going to work for $12 an hour. I am sorry. And I'm not working all day when I do it, especially not for those wages, okay? And after they tax you, you don't have nothing, no way. And half of the stuff that they take out of your taxes, you don't even know what it means. So just, and you don't get it all back. And you don't get it all back. The miseducation of the Negro. After being advanced to positions of influence, some of them have been known to run amok and advocate social equality or demand for their race the privileges of democracy when they should restrict themselves to education and religious development. As Carter G. Woodson said earlier, we have been what? Reduced to teachers and preachers, both of which program through whose curriculum? I'm just saying. Think about that, okay? It is often said, too, that the time is not right for the Negroes to take over the administration of their institutions, for they do not have the contacts for raising money. But what becomes of this argument when we remember what Booker T. Washington did for Tuskegee and observe what R.R. Moton and John Hope are doing today? Some people ain't even heard of Booker T. Washington, and most people, or some people most definitely, have not heard of R.R. Moton and John Hopes. You, as a person who looked like me, have you did any Black history researching in your living environment, in your home, in your apartment, in your car? Because some of us are homeless in the streets. But even if you are homeless in the street with your car, still read your child or educate your own self on something about you that can help you rise above the condition in which you're in. I'm just saying. As the first Negro president of Howard University Medical, Mordecai W. Johnson has raised more money for that institution among philanthropists than all of his former presidents combined. And you know, all of the rest of them were Caucasian. Furthermore, if after 3 generations of Negro colleges have not produced men qualified to administer their affairs, such an admission is an eloquent argument that they have failed ingloriously and should be immediately closed. Recently, someone asked me how I connect my criticism of the higher education of the Negroes with the developments in the spirit, and especially in the 4 universities in the South, which are made possibly by millions obtained from governments, boards, and philanthropists. How can you compare the two? I believe that the establishment of these 4 centers of learning at Washington, Atlanta, Nashville, and New Orleans can be so carried out as to mark an epoch in the development of the Negro race. On the other hand, there is just as much possibility for a colossal failure of the whole scheme if these institutions are to be the replica of universities like Howard, Yale, Columbia, and Chicago. If the men who are to administer them and teach in them are to be the products of all roll-up top desk theorists who have never touched the life of a Negro, the money thus invested will be just as profitably spent if it is used to buy peanuts to throw at the animals at a circus. Meaning, it's a circus show. It's a clown show if they can't produce. And what's in that Xavier? Like I said, this was back in the day, but those colleges are still there. Okay. Yeah. New Orleans, Nashville, Atlanta, Washington. They say that Atlanta is the new Black Wall Street, but I just see Atlanta as something else. Because when you go to Atlanta, you find a lot of black men who are not into women. They into, that's the new Atlanta. Not to mention the shootings and killings that has been taking place in Atlanta. It should be the Black Wall Street economically, but it's become the killing dome, the murder dome. I'm just saying. And a whole lot of other stuff. But needless to say, some of the thought behind in the new educational movement is to provide in the South for educating the Negroes who are now crowding northern universities, especially the medical schools, many of which will not admit Negroes because of the racial friction in hospital practice. But we taught them, our ancestors did. In the rush merely to make special provisions for these undesirable students, the institutions which are to train them may be established on false ideas and make the same blunders of the smaller institutions which have preceded them. It will hardly help a poisoned patient to give them a large dose of poison. And higher institutions for Negroes organized along lines required for people differently circumstanced. Some few may profit by being further grounded in the fundamentals. Others may become more adept in the exploitation of their people, and a smaller number may cross the divide and join the whites in useful service. But the large majority of the products of such institutions will increase rather than diminish the load which the masses have had to carry ever since their emancipation. Such ill-prepared workers will have no foundation upon which to build. The education of any people should begin with the people themselves, but Negroes thus trained have been dreaming about the ancients of Europe and about those who have tried to imitate them. Wow. In a course at Harvard, for example, students were required to find out whether Pericles was justly charged with trying, Pericles, was justly charged with trying to supplant the worship of Jupiter with that of Juno. Remember, I did that Juno thing and the World 16 Crucified Saviors. We spoke about Pericles, also known as Hercules. We spoke about Jupiter. We spoke about Mars. We spoke about a lot of that stuff. Thus engaged have learned that they would not have been much better prepared for work among the Negroes in the Black Belt if they had spent the time learning why John Jasper of Sun Do Move fame joined with Joshua in contending that the pleasant stood still in the middle of the line while he fought the battle the second time. See, they have you distracted over here, over there. They give you the underplay for the overplay, and this has been our failure. This has been the program of failure that we have been indoctrinated with. Talking the other day with one of the men now giving the millions to build the 4 Negroes universities in the South. However, I find that he is of the opinion that accredited institutions can be established in mushroom fashion with theorists out of touch with the people. In other words, you can almost go anywhere and build a $3 million plant, place in charge a white man to do what you want to accomplish, and in a short while he can secure or have trained to order the men necessary to make a university. Did you get that? I'm just saying. We want here, he will say, a man who has his master's degree in English. Send me another who has his doctorate degree in sociology, and I can use one more in physics. Now, experience have shown that men of this type may fill in, but a university cannot be established with such raw recruits. The author once had some experience in trying to man a college in this fashion, and the result was a story that would make an interesting headline for the newspaper. When Dr. William Bainey Harper was establishing the University of Chicago, which still exists, he called to the leadership of the various departments only men who had distinguished themselves in the creative world. Some had advanced degrees and some had not. Several of them had never done any formal graduating work at all. All of them, however, were men whose thoughts was moving the world. It may have been argued that Negroes have no such men and must have been trained, but such a thing cannot be forced as we are now doing it. It would be much better to stimulate the development of the more progressive teachers of old than experiment with novices produced by the degradation of higher education. Hope y'all got that. He just said it. I don't have to say nothing else behind that. The degradation of the doctorate, especially dawned upon the author today more clearly than ever when a friend of his rushed into his office saying, "I have been trying to see you for several days. I have just failed to get a job for which I have been working, and I am told that I cannot expect a promotion until I get my doctor's degree." That is what he called it, a doctor's degree. Even pronounced the words, but he is determined to have his doctor's degree to get a job in sight. This shameful status of higher education is due in large measure of low standards in institutions with a tendency toward the diploma mill procedure. To get a job or to hold one, you will go and stay until they grind you out a doctor's degree, and you don't have to worry any further. The assumption is that almost any school will be glad to give you thereafter, and you will receive a large salary. Now, when he said doctors, he spelled it Darkters. That's him, the guy that he is referring to, that is seeking this higher education, that couldn't pronounce the word doctor versus doctors. Okay, investigations has shown that men who have the doctorates not only lose touch with the common people, but they do not as much creative work as those of less formal education. So are they really smarter? Is the question. And you must remember, just because you're not certified, that does not mean that you're not qualified. Okay? And you will receive a large salary. Okay? Few persons have thought of the seriousness of such inertia among men who are put in the lead of things because of meeting statutory requirements of frontier universities which are not on the frontier. The General Education Board of Julius Rosenwald Fund have a policy which may have a partial solution of the undeveloped Negro college instructors problem. These foundations are giving Negro teachers scholarships to improve themselves for work in the spirit in which they are now laboring in the South. These boards, as a rule, do not send one to school to work for the doctor's degree. If they find a man of experience and good judgment showing possibilities for growth, they will provide for him a study a year or more to refresh his mind with whatever there is new in his field. Experience has shown that teachers thus have later done much better work than doctors of philosophy made to order. The Northern universities, moreover, cannot do graduate work for Negroes along certain lines when they are concentrating on the educational needs of people otherwise circumstanced. The Graduate School of Negroes studying chemistry with George W. Carter at Tuskegee. That's right. Remember, I did a piece on him. If you didn't check that video out on this channel, I did videos on George Washington Carver. They are great videos. So please, by all means, check those videos out. And they were uploads, not lives. Yes, Negroes studying with George Washington Carver at Tuskegee because him and Booker T. Washington did make that happen. Okay, at least 100 youths should wait daily upon the words of this scientist to be able to pass on to generations unborn his great knowledge of agricultural chemistry. Negroes desiring to specialize in agriculture should do it with workers like T.M. Campbell and B.F. Hubert among the Negro farmers in the South. In education itself, the situation is the same. Neither Columbia nor Chicago can give an advanced course in Negro rural education, for their work in education is based primarily upon what they knew of the educational needs of the whites. Such work for Negroes must be done under the direction of the trailblazers, which are building schools, houses, and reconstruction of the educational program of all those in the backwoods. Leaders of this type can supply the foundation upon which a university of realistic education may be established. We offer no argument here against the advanced degrees, but these should come as honors conferred for training crowned with scholastic distinction, not to enable a man to increase his salary or to find a better paying position. The schools which are now directing attention exclusively to these external marks of learning will not contribute much to the uplift of the Negro. Did you get that? That's because they need workers, not thinkers. In Cleveland, not long ago, the author found at the university something unusually encouraging. A native of Mississippi, a white trained in a northern university and now serving as a professor in one, has under him in sociology a from Georgia. For his dissertation, the Negro is collecting the sounds of his people in everyday life, their morning greetings, their remarks about the weather, their comments on things which happen around them, their reactions to things which strike them as unusual, and their efforts to interpret life as the paranormal passes before them. The white Mississippian and black Georgian are on the right way to understand the Negro, and if they do not fall out social equality, they will serve the Negro much better than those who are trying to find out whether Henry VIII lusted more after Anne Boleyn than after Catherine or Aragon, or whether Elizabeth was justly styled as more untruthful than Philip II of Spain. I like that. You see? And that, my people out there in YOUTUBE, that is chapter 4. It is my hope that you got something out of this, because I did. Because what I see is what you don't see. And if you do see it, and you have others that are around you that do see it, why are we not making it happen? Because we don't believe in ourselves. We don't trust each other with anything, and we hate ourselves. But we'll give all of our energy and focus to a clock that'll pay you $10, $12 an hour. Is that all you worth? Is that all you're worth? If that's all you worth, well, I guess that's all you worth. It's sad, but true. Yes, we have progressed in innovations and technology, but the progress for people who look like me has not happened. And yes, historically, we did, the whole plan was for us to fail and to stay a slave. But after this age of information and all of the people that has come before you, that has shown you that it is all possible, I'm just saying, don't complain about the situation if you're not trying to do nothing about it. I'm just saying. And me sitting here right now is trying to help you better yourself. Granted, there are a lot of books, okay? But there's a lot of misleading information in books as well. You just have to know who's who. And sometimes that takes 10 books. But in this case, it only takes one. It only takes one. The Miseducation of the Negro, Carter G. Woodson. If you haven't got it, go get it. Teach your children. Teach your family. Teach your neighbors. Are you going to be part of the solution or part of the problem? 2023. Thanks for viewing, you all. It's your brother, the MOPOWERZ, where knowledge is power. Remember, it is your third eye that makes you shine like jewelry. If you haven't done so already, press the subscribe button below. View the videos. Hit the notification bell. Share the information. That's right. And by the way, I almost forgot. They send me the information with key moderates, right? I don't even have anybody in my lives. I don't have a person in my life, so there's really nothing to moderate. But King Guys, you would be the moderator. You know, you would be a moderator, but I don't have nobody to moderate. Ain't nobody in my lives, like straight up. But needless to say, don't ever give up on your dreams. And my dreams is to continue to teach you, because that's what I've done all my life. Just not on YouTube. In real life, though. It's your brother. Thanks for viewing, you all. Peace out.